So just when you think it's all going to be easy, it's not. Well, we're back with another marketplace find. Gonna head out today and go pick up a picker truck. We went and looked at it last week and finally made a deal on it. But I gotta borrow a trailer from a buddy of mine and then get all our gear and ready to go. And then we'll head out and go try and pick that thing up. All right, got my buddy's trailer. Got it all hooked up, ready to go. Just gotta grab like winch, chains, some boomers, and a few other odds and ends. And we're gonna see if we can get this truck. I know it runs, but we're gonna see if we can get it moving. The clutch wasn't working when we were there looking at it, so we'll see if we can get that to work and then hopefully drive it on to the trailer. But we'll get the winch and everything ready just in case. Well, you guys probably can't see, but it's starting to snow on us. So this trip might turn into a pretty crappy one. So we'll see. I hope I don't get too wet, and I'm not sure what the weather is going to be like over where we got to go. It's only about an hour away, so hopefully we can get there loaded before the snow and rain get there, but find out soon.
It's snowing and we're at the scales. But what are we about to do our weights? What are they about to weigh the trucks? Okay, go. $45.50, $37.20, $2,700. It doesn't look nearly as snowy on camera.
I know, it doesn't do it justice. If it snowed like this where that truck is, this is gonna suck so bad. Should blast the horn and All right, we made it to where the truck is. Got my trusty sidekick. So, I'll show you where the truck's at. It's right up here. So we're gonna go check it out, see what all we need to do to try and get that thing to move on its own power. All right, here it is. So it looks like he's got it blocked up a bit here. I think he was trying to air up some of the tires. So I might have to unhook my truck off the trailer, bring it over and see if we can air some of this stuff up. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the load chart is on this, but I'm going to try and see if I can find it all online. And I believe it's a Ford 6.6 diesel, one of those Brazilian ones, but not 100% sure. It's been rebuilt and seems to start and run fine. We brought a couple batteries for it, see if we can get it going. Right now the clutch isn't working, so we're gonna try and get some clutch fluid in there, see if that's the issue, or try and bleed it and see what's going on there. We'll check coolant and stuff, engine oil, and make sure that we can run this thing for a few minutes while we try and move it around. So, I'm not sure even it's a HAP brand. I think that's where the load chart used to be. Someone painted over it, but. So I got Tiernan airing up this one outside tire. It's on the bead still. That inner one had a blowout, so it's not going to take any air. But we only need it enough to get it onto the trailer, and we're just luckily truck with air. Gotta love it. And while he's doing that, I'm going to throw some antifreeze in it, so it doesn't look like there's any in there. I don't know if you can see in that hole, but she's dry. So I got a jug here that I'm going to throw in, and then we'll get it fired up. Okay, we're going to try and fire it up right now and get it running and try and get it off the blocks on the back. And if you look at the front tires here, they're pretty buried in there. So we're going to try and lift it up with the picker and see if we can get some blocks of wood under there so that we can try and drive it out of here. We'll see if we can get the clutch going. It looked like the guy put some brake fluid in there for us, so we might have to bleed the system though. And I can't open the door. There we go. There we go.
Click, click, boom.
That's a little smoky, but she fired up. Seems like the clutch is working, so I'll see if it'll go into gear, but we'll try and get these front tires dug out first. Sound like it's a gate.
I can hear it.
I think we'll be able to drive this out.
I ain't gonna pull out the wheels. Okay, the truck?
No.
I think that's way tight.
Yeah. Oh, those are heavy. Flower issue is the front tires are buried and the back end's jacked up in the air. So we might grab some chains, pull the Freightliner ahead, and well, actually we'll probably pull it behind and see if we can try and drag this thing backwards so it's out of the ground and off those blocks, and then we should be able to drive it out. So,
Hammer the blocks out.
pardon?
Just hammer the blocks out.
Well, if we drag it, they'll just fall over anyways. They're only just on that back apron, so
Yeah.
they'll be good. But we'll flip around the Freightliner and get this thing pulled out of the hole. So these are the blocks that it's sitting on, and we're just going to try and drag it ahead, get it off those blocks, out of these ruts, and then hopefully drive it over to the trailer. Tiernan's just hooking up a strap here. We might have to see if we can find a longer one, because that's pretty close, but we'll see if the old Freightliner can drag it out. So just when you think it's all going to be easy, it's not. As you can see, it's buried. We can't get it to move. And we found out that the rear is piled up. I don't know what's making that noise, but either the 2-speed shifter in the rear end is shot, but the drive shaft just spins and the diff doesn't do anything. Being jammed up on these blocks, I was hoping it would just kind of roll off, but that's not the case. And old Hercules here is trying to work his magic. See if we can pop those out of there, drop that down, and then at least we're not fighting that plus the front tires and all that stuff. So usually my Freightliner is really good, but being as it snowed today, all this grass is wet and you get zero traction on that stuff. Looks like it's kind of coming, maybe, kind of, sort of, almost. Yeah, that's a few hundred pounds on there at least. If we can't get this to work, what we might do is park the Freightliner beside this, wrap the winch around it, and winch those blocks out of there to drop it down. And then we might have to slide that winch into the rear receiver of this and try and just drag it backwards with that or something. I don't know. We'll see what we can do. There we go. Beauty. Okay, we're gonna get this stuff cleaned up and out of the way, and we'll try pulling this out again. It'd be nice if that diff worked, but we'll monkey around with it and see if we can get that 2-speed to kick in proper. But flicking it both ways, it doesn't seem to work. I'm pretty sure either there's teeth missing on the pinion or the ring gear. But hopefully I can pull it out with the old Freightliner now. Okay, so we got all those blocks out. We switched the truck around. We're gonna try and pull it from the rear now. Hopefully that works, and I hope the brakes work so we don't end up smashing the trucks together. Okay, so we got the truck out of the ruts. Got the back out, that's where it was sitting right there. This is how deep it was in the front. That's pretty bad. But Tiernan had the genius idea of putting the blocks by the tires while I was pulling so it didn't roll back in those ruts. And it, as you see, it took quite a few times to get it out of there. So now what we're gonna do is see if the brakes work. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of a pull, and if the brakes are working, then I'll just pull them out onto the road there and we'll get aligned and get it onto the trailer. And if the brakes aren't working, what we're gonna do is get blocks of wood like that big one there and leapfrog probably every 10 to 15 feet behind the tires, so I can just pull it and then it can stop on those blocks. So, but we'll find out if these brakes are working first. So this is the truck idling in neutral. That's our drive shaft issue. I think something's exploded real bad. Oh well, I'm not too worried. This is a weird differential anyways with a horrible bolt pattern, so it's scrap anyways. So we got it moving, the brakes are working. We're just gonna get the camera set up here and get it pulled out. Got it out of there, and now we're just going to try and get it on the trailer. We'll see if we can get it to go in gear and drive, but we'll get the winch set up and battery ready, and we're probably going to have to pull it on. So we tried getting this truck on all by itself, but with that diff being the way it is, it just won't go. So what we ended up doing was a job here. I brought my winch, and it's got one of those carriers for putting in a receiver, but I got no way to attach it to the trailer, so we just ended up unbolting it and bolting it up to the factory mounting plates up there. So we're gonna try and pull it on, and hopefully we don't have to fight too hard with this thing. Okay, Tier, you want to hop in the truck? Hope this battery's Well, that was a lot of messing around, but we finally got it. It's on there. Had a little bit of an oops here. Yeah, I think that board was a little rotten, so I'm gonna owe one of those. Oh well, we'll get her all doctored up. I just hope I got enough room for these ramps to go up. If not, I guess I'll strap them to the truck. We'll figure that out in a minute. But she's loaded, we'll get it all chained down, and we're gonna hit the road. And then we're gonna hit the scales again and see what this truck weighed, because I'm pretty curious. Quick warm-up break. Feet are wet, feet are cold. Gotta get them hot. At least we got some nice zesty Ariba. One of the best. All right, we're back at the scales here. So we'll re-weigh everything. Ooh, front axle 4220. You want to do this tier?
Rear is 60.
60. Ooh, our buddy's behind us. Okay, what do we have? 50 or 95.30. Okay, we'll grab the numbers later and figure it all out and see what we weigh. Or see how much a truck weighs anyways. Well, finally made it home. I think we left at, I don't know, 1:30, 7 o'clock now. It's been a long little trip, but we made it back. So we're gonna unload it now. And Tiernan's bringing over David. I'm gonna drag it off with the old 6x6. Here he comes. Not quite a speed demon, but it works. All right, I'll get this thing all unchained and get it ready to pull off here. I'm gonna throw a battery in and get it fired up so we got brakes and everything. Thanks, David. Sure ain't gonna win a race with that thing. Well, I got the picker truck backed into the shop here a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is pop that 2-speed out of the rear axle and see if I can get that to work. Got a buddy that needs this for a job, and it's pretty close to my house, so I just need to get this thing kind of trustworthy enough to move and get over there. I got 4 tires that I'm going to put on it as well and start going through everything: oil, antifreeze, brakes, all that stuff, make sure everything works. So first I'm going to try and air up these front tires so they're holding a little bit more. The other one's even flatter than this. This one's goofy. It's got a little oddball valve stem on it, but should be able to get the end of my air gun hooked up. And then, being as this truck's sitting on a slope and I got to lift up the back end, I got some old guardrail ties in front of both front wheels to try and keep it from rolling away.
The really goofy thing about this truck is the spread on the bolt pattern. This is a typical 10, but it's not your universal mount like the semis are, which I mentioned before. A typical semi is roughly 11 1/4 center to center, and this one's 13 1/4 center to center. So I have rims, but not that bolt pattern, but I do have some 22.5 tires. So I got 4 of those that are pretty decent. I just hope they all hold air, and I'll get those put on the back. The front ones I think I'll leave. They seem pretty decent. They're a little bit weather checked, but not too bad. Oh man, thought it was going. There it goes. So the problem I have with this one is I put a thread on end on here instead of that quick clamp, and it turns out on some of this stuff it's a major pain in the butt, but when it's on there it's good. So we're sitting at 37 pounds, so I'll try and run this up to about 70. Hopefully it doesn't blow and I don't get torn in two. That's looking a lot better for these tires. There's my good old shop dog Bailey. Hey Bailey. Yeah, you just love hanging in the shop, don't ya? Working on stuff. This one was a lot more flat, but they're holding there. I put them to about 80 pounds and see if they bulge or anything. I'll check them in a while, but next up is I'm going to pull that 2-speed out. It seems to be working in the high range now. I can't get it to move in low, but it seems to go in high. So I don't know if it was just too cold and there was moisture or something in there. But these are the back tires. This side's holding up not bad, but you can see that other side. It's totally done. Off the bead. I think there's actually a big hole in it somewhere. Let's see if we can see it. No. That rim's all bent up too, but gotta use what I gotta use. So I'll get that all straightened up. I want to make sure this 2-speed works first before I mess around doing these tires. So we'll get that off and see what it's looking like and make sure it's functioning proper, or if I can at least lock it in at least high range and make it work that way. So I got some WD-40 on the bolts for this range selector. Let that soak for a while, try and loosen up all the rust and everything. They look pretty bad. So we'll try and get that popped off, and then I'll go grab Tiernan and I'll get him to run the switch, and I'll see exactly what's going on with this thing, if it's working. Maybe I'll see some damage inside and be able to hopefully fix that so this range selector works a little better. Well, there's the problem. Well, I found the issue. So that piece there is supposed to be in there. And then what it does, get under here, it slides this range back and forth between your high and low. So I might just have to build a plate to hold this in one section, and it's going to be what it's going to be for now. I'll try and take that thing apart and get that little collar to stay in there, but I don't think that's going to be too easy of a job. So I think it's going to be a pain in the butt. See what I can do. So what I'm going to do is undo these 4 little screws here and try and get this housing popped off, and then that'll give me a look inside, and I'm going to see if I can reattach that in there somehow. Either build up some weld or try and mushroom it or something, but we'll get it opened up and see if I can get it back together. Okay, so I'll start taking this thing apart and we'll see what's inside. But got the trusty shop cat. Hey Jojo. She loves hanging out too. Her and Bailey don't really get along. Looks like this is pretty heavily glued, but hopefully... I might have to try and get this in the vise and pry it apart. I'll get something fabbed up here. Alright, so I got that off. Oh, well, I guess it's too late now. Stuff's apart, so... well, I'll do some digging. It looks like there's some little screws here that I can undo, and that should let me get it apart more, and then that'll get me access to this plate here. Looks like there's some springs in there, which might end up being a big problem, but we'll see. So I got that thing pretty much apart here. Get that to focus. Oh my gosh. Anyways, so the spring's still in there. I might compress it and pull it right out of the way just so I got better access to the back here. But I'm gonna get that that little roller shift fork type thingy and put it in there and see how it sits, because I think what I might do is just put a flat washer on the back and then try and tack that in place, and that should hopefully be enough just to get this thing by for a while. So these are part of the plastic slides for this thing. I think when this popped out, it shattered this one and broke it apart. Again, I'm just gonna try and clean that up and just glue it back together so it kind of half works. I only need this thing to work a few times just to get it from point A to point B a couple times, and then all that crane, hydraulics, and everything are all getting transferred to another truck. So, like I say, I don't need this thing to last forever, just long enough to do these 2 quick jobs. I think that's all ovaled out. I don't think it's supposed to be that shape, so I might be able to just even tack this in there directly, but it looks like it's been sliding goofy for so long that it's kind of shaved down these sides and created a bit of a ridge. So I'm going to get in there with die grinder files or something and try and get that so this can rotate 360 degrees a little easier. And yeah, like I say, I'll probably just end up putting it in there and then giving it a weld, and it can just stay there for life. Okay, I think I got this 2-speed actuator working, or coming together anyways. So I got that broken slider all super glued together, so we'll see if that holds it all. And this little slide fork deal, I got it all welded in there. It's still hot, but I'm gonna let that cool down. This piece still spins free. I got a needle greaser, so I'm gonna try and get some right inside that on the shaft and add a little bit of extra grease in there just to help this thing by. Once this is all cooled down, I'll get this all put together and we'll test it out in the truck and see if it works. Okay, this is all back together now. Just re-siliconed it. Got it all in place, added some extra grease in there. If the lights will work. So I'll go get this put in place and try it out. So we're finally getting around to using this picker truck. I got it to my buddy's place. It was about a 10-mile drive. And we got it in town, and what we got to do is put a couple beams in his basement here for all the floor support. So those are the beams there. They're about 26 feet long. Got the picker truck ready to go. So we just got to drill some holes. We got the mag drill ready to go and gonna get those punched out, and then we'll get these beams lifted and put in place.
We don't have enough reach to fully reach it to that end pocket or even get it in this side. So we gotta rig it funny in order to get that extra reach. Using that spreader, jib, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's a tight fit.
Did they build this bar for these straps probably?
Nope, I have no idea. I'm just kind of guessing here. We might need chains on each one of these, but we'll have enough. There we go. That'll be perfect. Definitely is not slipping out now. Sorry for all the background noise. We got the truck running. So we got a nice beam set up here, a spreader bar, and we got to offset this beam to get enough reach out there. And what we're doing here is just grinding off the pockets. There's a piece of plate steel, see if you can see that there, where this I-beam is going to rest. And then what we got to do is just tack weld it. Once it's in place, we'll tack weld it to those plates. So we're just getting all the concrete residue off of it and getting that part ready before we set this right in place. And then also there's a little bit of concrete residue right on top, so we're gonna get rid of that so that these things actually sit flush, and it's just a better way of doing the job. So we don't have quite enough reach. We're 23-foot reach from the edge of the deck, and that span is 26 feet, and we're 15 feet from the nearest edge to the edge of the deck. So we need about 7 more feet than what we have. So we're just trying to hook in this pocket here, and we might have to adjust our slings now that we got it to there. And then what we'll do is we'll swing that end over into that pocket, and hopefully we can make that work. Just getting the second beam put in place. So got it in the pocket over there. And Aaron's getting the bolts all put in place. Well, we got the projects done with the picker truck, and it actually worked out pretty good. That 2-speed axle fix worked awesome and had no issues with that at all. The bad part is there's no throttle cable on this truck, and I got to use the high idle cable to drive it, so we were only doing about 40 kilometers an hour on the back roads there, but it ended up working. So now I think I'm going to start getting it ready to rip apart, and I have another truck that I'm going to start putting it on, but I think this time I'm going to take the picker, and instead of leaving it at the back of the cab, I'm going to put it at the back of the frame. And then I'll shorten this deck and make it fit the truck to whatever length I'm going to have room for. But that's it for this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.